Hey everybody, welcome to another deep dive with us here at Pragmatic Reviews. For this one, we're going to be looking at Terraform. As DevOps engineers and solutions architects, it's pretty much a must-know these days.
Absolutely.
Cloud environments are just, well, they're getting so complex.
Yeah.
And trying to manage all that infrastructure the old way, all that manual clicking and configuring,
Mhm.
it's just not going to work anymore.
Nope.
It's kind of like trying to conduct a whole orchestra, but only using, I don't know, hand signals.
Yeah.
It's chaotic, and honestly, you're just asking for errors.
Lots of errors.
So this is where infrastructure as code, IEC, comes in.
Exactly.
And Terraform is, well, it's really leading the charge here.
It is.
Basically, it lets you write your whole cloud setup as code.
Right.
You get so much control and repeatability, well, any sysadmin would love it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You can think of it as like having a blueprint for your entire cloud setup.
Nice. I like that.
And the great thing is it's not just hype. Terraform really is the top IAC tool.
Really?
Yeah. The State of ISC 2023 report showed it. What I find fascinating is how it just gives you that power, like multi-cloud compatibility, the automation, streamlined workflows.
I feel like all of that's especially important for us as DevOps pros. Multi-cloud deployments, automating those complex configurations, managing multi-tier applications. It's a game changer.
It really is.
Before we go too far, though, let's talk about the fundamentals of Terraform. We always hear resources, providers, modules. What do all of those actually mean?
Okay, so let's break those down a little.
Please.
Think of resources as, well, kind of like the Lego bricks of your infrastructure.
I like that.
They're the virtual machines, the networks, the database, basically all those core components.
Okay, makes sense.
Then you have providers, which are like instruction manuals for different Lego sets.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to work with, say, AWS, you need the right provider for that.
So if I want to build a castle on AWS and like a spaceship on Azure, I need the right provider for each one.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like a universal translator for your cloud infrastructure.
Oh, I see.
And then there are modules, which are like, well, kind of like pre-built Lego models.
Oh, cool.
You need a fortress? Boom, grab the fortress module.
Nice.
Saves you so much time.
That makes sense. So now I'm kind of seeing how it all comes together. But what about this state thing I keep hearing about?
Yeah, yes, state.
What is this? Some, I don't know, like Zen state of perfect configuration.
Uh-huh. No, it's more like Terraform's record-keeping system.
Okay.
Like a snapshot of everything you've built, where it's located, the configuration. It prevents accidents.
So it's like that safety switch on a saw that stops you from cutting your hand off?
Exactly.
Okay, that's pretty important. And data sources. Are those like secret blueprints we can use to build even more amazing things?
They're more like reference books.
Oh, okay.
They let Terraform get information from outside, like software updates or system configs.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Keeps everything up to date. So it's almost like Terraform is constantly checking the latest building codes and safety regulations.
That's a great way to put it.
Awesome. So how does this all actually work in practice? Do we just shout our wishes and Terraform makes it happen?
Well, it's almost that easy. The cool thing about Terraform is the workflow.
Okay.
First, you write down what you want, kind of like a shopping list for your cloud resources.
Yeah.
Then Terraform becomes like a planner.
Oh, interesting.
And it shows you what it's going to do, but no surprises.
Like a contractor showing you a 3D model of your house.
Yeah, exactly. Then, if it looks good...
We give the green light.
Exactly. And it handles all the hard stuff. Communicating with the cloud providers, configuring, deploying.
This sounds so efficient, but every tool has its quirks. Are there any downsides?
Well, yeah, of course, nothing's perfect,
Okay.
but the good news is with Terraform, the advantages, they really outweigh those challenges, especially for folks like us, in DevOps and solutions architecture.
Okay, well, you got to sell me on it. What makes it so great for what we do every day?
Okay, so imagine this. You're setting up a multi-tier application.
Uh-huh.
And it spans a bunch of different cloud providers. Like you've got web servers, databases, caching, load balancers, the whole thing. And it's spread out across AWS, Azure, maybe even Google Cloud.
Oh, yeah. That classic multi-cloud juggling act.
Yeah, exactly. And without Terraform, well, you'd be stuck managing like a million different tools and APIs, scripts for every platform. It's a recipe for headaches.
And don't forget configuration drift. Trying to keep everything consistent is a nightmare.
Oh, it is. But with Terraform, you can define all that infrastructure as code. no matter what cloud provider you're using.
So it's like, I don't know, like having a universal remote for your whole cloud kingdom.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You write one set of configurations and Terraform does the rest.
So instead of getting bogged down in all those platform specifics, we can actually focus on the big picture, the architecture, dependencies, the workflow.
Exactly. And speaking of dependencies, Terraform handles those too. It makes sure everything provisions in the right order. So, your database will be running before the web servers start trying to
Oh,
connect.
thank goodness for that. No more resource not found errors in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
We were talking about modules earlier. How do those fit into this whole multi-cloud thing?
Modules are awesome. They're like pre-built blueprints for common infrastructure patterns.
Okay.
So let's say you need a whole web server cluster with load balancing. You
Yeah.
just grab the module, put in your configs, and boom, instant infrastructure.
So we're not just automating resources, we're automating whole patterns, best practices.
Exactly. You can even share those modules with your team or, well, even the whole community.
I love that. It's like a shared library of all this DevOps knowledge.
It is.
But let's shift gears for a minute. Let's talk about security.
Okay.
It's always top of mind for us. How does Terraform help us build infrastructure that's secure and compliant?
Security is, well, it's built right into Terraform. By defining your infrastructure as code, you can put security best practices right into the configurations themselves.
So it's almost like having a security guard baked into every brick of your cloud fortress.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. You can define firewall rules, restrict access to sensitive stuff, even automate security audits.
All through code.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. That's what I call proactive security. While we're on the topic of peace of mind, what about disaster recovery?
Don't worry, Terraform's got you covered there too. You can use it to create redundant infrastructure across different availability zones or even different cloud providers.
So if one region goes down, we could just automatically spin things up somewhere else using Terraform.
Yep, it's like having an instant backup plan.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's the kind of resilience every DevOps team wants.
Yeah.
But beyond disaster recovery, it seems like Terraform also solves another big problem we have: consistency and repeatability.
Oh, absolutely. When you define your infrastructure as code, you're basically creating a blueprint. And you can use that to deploy identical environments for development, testing, staging, production, everything.
So no more of those snowflake environments.
Yeah.
No more inconsistencies between different stages of the pipeline.
Exactly. It makes troubleshooting and debugging way easier.
Oh, yeah. I've spent way too many hours trying to figure out why something works in one environment but not another. So we've talked about multi-cloud, security, automation, disaster recovery, consistency. What else can Terraform do?
One area that's getting a lot of attention lately is using Terraform for serverless deployments.
Yeah.
Platforms like AWS Lambda and Azure Functions.
Yeah, they've really changed how we build and deploy applications.
Right. It's all about abstracting away that infrastructure so we can just focus on the code.
But even though you're not managing servers directly, you still need to define and orchestrate all those serverless components.
And that's where Terraform comes in. It's like a conductor for your serverless orchestra, making sure all the functions, APIs, event triggers, everything is working together in harmony.
I love that analogy.
You can use Terraform to define functions, configure triggers, manage dependencies, deploy across multiple cloud providers. It's really great for managing complex architectures.
This has been amazing. Terraform really feels like a Swiss Army knife for DevOps and solutions architects.
I'm glad you're finding it helpful. Hopefully you're starting to see how Terraform can be a game changer.
I definitely am.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away, we should probably acknowledge that, well, Terraform isn't magic.
Oh, you're right. It's a powerful tool, but it has its challenges. There are some potential pitfalls to watch out for.
Okay, so in this last part, let's dive into those challenges and look at some best practices for using Terraform effectively. Welcome back for the final part of our Terraform deep dive.
It is.
We've spent the last two parts talking about how amazing Terraform is. But we all know every powerful tool has its downsides, or at least some things you got to watch out for.
That's true. It's kind of like, those tangle up holiday lights after a cat's been playing with them?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
That's what your Terraform configurations can end up like if you're not careful.
And I bet untangling those configs is just as fun as untangling those lights. So let's talk about what those pitfalls are.
Okay, sounds good.
And most importantly, how we, as DevOps pros can avoid them.
Definitely. I think one of the biggest traps, especially for people just starting out, is they don't really understand how important state management is.
Yeah, that state file.
Right. That's Terraform's memory, basically. It keeps track of every little detail about your infrastructure.
We did touch on this earlier,
We did.
but it's really important. If that state file gets messed up or gets out of sync, well, things can go wrong.
They can. You could accidentally delete resources or create duplicates.
Not exactly the kind of automation we're looking for.
Not at all. A mismanaged state file, it's like a recipe for disaster. You have to be so careful with it.
Okay, so treat the state file like it's, I don't know, the crown jewels or something. Keep it safe, keep it backed up.
Exactly. Don't store it on someone's laptop where they could spill coffee on it.
Oh yeah, definitely not. So besides keeping that state file safe and sound, what else should we be thinking about? What other best practices are there?
Another common mistake is what I call the monolith trap.
Oh, okay, tell me about that.
It's really tempting to put your entire infrastructure definition into one giant Terraform file.
Right.
You think it's simpler that way, but it's not.
Yeah, I can imagine it gets pretty messy.
It does. It becomes a nightmare to manage and debug. It's the same idea as with good software development.
Keep things modular, break things down.
Exactly. It's like building a city. You wouldn't design every single street and building in one giant blueprint.
Right.
You'd break it down into districts, neighborhoods, individual buildings. Same thing with Terraform.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm guessing clear naming conventions and good documentation are pretty important too.
Oh, absolutely. Those names for your resources, modules, variables, they're like street signs in that city.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
They help you navigate, understand what everything is. And don't forget comments.
Oh yeah, comments are always good.
They're like those historical plaques you see.
Right, giving you some context.
Yeah. They explain the why behind the what.
I think future me would definitely thank present me for good comments and documentation. I've learned that the hard way. But we got to talk about another essential part of good software engineering.
Testing.
Exactly. We have to test our Terraform code, right?
We do. And thankfully, Terraform has tools to catch those basic syntax errors and stuff.
Oh,
But for real confidence, you want to do automated testing.
so just like we write unit tests for application code, we can write tests for our infrastructure code.
Yep. There are tools like TerraTest that let you do this. And you can run them automatically as part of your workflow.
That's cool. So it's like having an independent inspector checking out your infrastructure before you actually go live with it.
Exactly. Gives you so much more confidence. Especially when you're working on complex deployments, it's one thing to think your code should work.
Right.
It's another to actually see those tests passing.
I like that a lot. And this brings us to something we've been talking about this whole time.
Infrastructure as code.
Yeah. It's more than just using Terraform. It's a whole way of thinking about things.
It is.
So what does it actually mean? What does it look like in our day-to-day work?
It means we're applying the same rigor and discipline to our infrastructure that we do to our application code.
Okay, that makes sense.
We version control it, we test it, we do code reviews, we automate the deployments.
So no more of those manual tweaks or undocumented changes?
Nope. And no more snowflake environments.
Oh.
Everything is traceable, repeatable, predictable.
It's like, I don't know, having a time machine for your infrastructure.
It is. You can roll back to any point, see how it's evolved, and make changes without being terrified.
Wow. This whole deep dive has been eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on infrastructure management now.
Yeah.
It's not just servers and networks anymore. It's code, it's automation. It's a whole new level of control.
I'm glad you feel that way.
I do.
Yeah.
And for our listeners who want to start their own Terraform adventures, what resources would you recommend? Where should they go to learn more?
The Terraform website is a great place to start. They've got great documentation, tutorials, a community forum where you can ask questions and connect with other people.
Perfect. We'll make sure to include links to all of that in the show notes.
Oh, and don't underestimate the power of just trying things out.
Hands-on learning.
Yeah. Spin up a free cloud account, find some sample code, and start building. There's no better way to learn.
I totally agree. So, to wrap things up, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember from this whole Terraform deep dive?
I'd say this. Terraform really can revolutionize how you approach infrastructure. By embracing this infrastructure as code idea, you can automate so much, improve your consistency, your security. You can make your work more efficient, even more enjoyable.
I love that. And with that, we've reached the end of our Terraform deep dive.
We have.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It has been a pleasure.
We hope you found this informative and, well, maybe even inspiring.
Inspiring.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Pragmatic Reviews YouTube channel, hit that like button, and leave us a comment below. We love hearing your thoughts and questions, even suggestions for future deep dives. Until next time, keep learning, keep coding, and keep exploring the amazing world of technology.